Hey everyone, welcome back to GrantMe. So today's video is going to be the second video for our SFU Ultimate University Guide. Now in the first video, I went over how to get into SFU. So I went over some of the eligibility, so the degree requirements, the general admission, as well as the 11 different ways that you can fulfill the requirement for English language, as well as the 4 ways, I think, for the analytical skills. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely do so if you want to know more of like the details of the eligibility. Everything is outlined in that video, as well as a small introduction of SFU. If you're not familiar with the Ultimate University Guide, I did a similar one for UBC, and I go over 4 different questions, and it's basically a comprehensive guide on whatever university I'm doing. I'm going to go over the top 20 universities in Canada, so definitely hit subscribe and the bell button to be notified every time we post about a new university. So as I said in my last video, SFU is located in British Columbia. It's one of the most well-known universities in BC, and they have 3 campuses, one in Vancouver, one in Burnaby, and one in Surrey. And they're most well known for their computer science program, as well as their sustainability. Now GrantMe has tons of students into SFU with funding, so if you're interested in getting GrantMe support in getting into your top university, especially if it's SFU, definitely take our scholarship eligibility quiz, and you'll be connected with a GrantMe educator, and you can start your journey from there. So in this video, I'm gonna go over how to apply to SFU. There's 2 different ways. I'm also gonna go over what you need to do after you apply to SFU, as well as the tuition for domestic students. So if you're interested in any of that, as well as more information about SFU, stay tuned. So there are actually 2 ways you can apply to SFU. One is through the SFU admissions page, and the second is through Education Planner BC. Education Planner BC is kind of like Ontario's OUAC. You can apply through different schools through that website. It's kind of like a portal to get you there. So you can do either through SFU directly or Education Planner BC, which if you submit your information once in there, it'll kind of be stored and you can easily apply to other universities in BC as well. Now SFU's application process is less rigorous than other universities like UBC, which ask for personal profiles and talking about the experience you've done. SFU mostly asks for your grades. There's only a handful of programs at SFU that'll look at just more than your grades, and here they are. So if you are applying to any of those, you want to make sure that you look at the program requirements or the degree specific requirements for that program. If you don't know what degree specific requirements are, or you're kind of wondering about your own, go ahead and watch my last video about SFU, and it'll kind of show you what that means, how you can kind of look at that, and then you can go to the SFU website and get all the information there. Okay, so if you are applying through Education Planner BC, you need to first make an account on Education Planner BC, and after making a secure password, a username, you can apply through SFU there. And now there are 6 different steps to applying to SFU. The first thing it's going to ask you on the application is something very basic. It's just your personal information. Now for your personal information, it's going to ask for your name, your email, your date of birth, and the primary language that you speak at home, as well as the country of citizenship. Now you want to make sure that all of this information is accurate. So for the name, you want to make sure that you put your full legal name that's on your birth certificate, that's on your passport, and not put it in the preferred name section. There is a preferred name section, and the difference between the preferred name section and the legal name is that preferred name is basically for any contact. If they're sending you emails, if someone needs to reach out to you, they will contact you through that name. But if you're applying officially to a university, you really want to make sure that you use your full legal name. Also in the personal information section, it's going to ask you what language you speak at home. Now this language basically is asking for your first language, and so it's what you're most comfortable with. with. If English is your second language, you want to make sure that you pick the language that you are most comfortable with for this option. And if it's not on the list, then you can just click other and go on to the next question. And the last thing that it'll ask you on the personal information section is your visa status. So you definitely want to make sure you answer that correctly as well. The next step is also very simple. It's your contact information. So you want to make sure your address that you put on there is your mailing address, so they can accurately send any acceptance, any request for extra documentation to that address. So you want to make sure that's accurate. It's also going to ask for your phone number. There will be options of, Canada or other country, and you can just input that. And there's also an option for other phones, so you can also input that as well. And lastly, in the contact information, there's also a section for emergency contact. So you definitely want to put in someone that is trustworthy, that they can reach out to anytime there's an emergency. Next is the academic history section. So the academic history section is asking just that. It's asking for your academic history. If you're a Canadian student, you're going to put in your high school, and you want to make sure that you're accurately putting in the dates for the high school. And if you did attend more than one high school, you can input all of those into the application. And also remember that if you have completed 3 or more years of high school in Canada, that means you've automatically qualified for one of the English requirements. It's only if you are a BC student, but it's gonna ask for your PIN number. So if you're a BC high school student, you know what a PIN number is, and you're gonna input that into your academic history section. In addition to the academic history section, there's also, if you are a transfer student, like a college or university transfer student, going into SFU, say from another province or within BC, there's also a section to put that in. So you're gonna first put in your high school information and then your post-secondary information. And within that post-secondary information, it's also gonna ask you if you have a diploma or certificate from that institution, or if you're just transferring, as well as the dates that you started that and are leaving. Now that you have completed the 3 sections, the personal information, contact information, and academic history of Education Planner BC, you are ready to apply to the actual application of SFU. So you're just gonna click start applying, and it'll take you to the SFU application. And the first thing that you'll have to do when you do that is to pick the program you're applying to. And you can actually use SFU's undergraduate compass tool if you're curious about which programs you're eligible for based on your English language requirement and your quantitative skills, as well as your grades. That compass tool will give you a bunch of options regarding the courses that you've taken in high school, as well as your grades and all of that. And it'll show you which faculties and programs that you're eligible for, and that'll give you more of an insight of what you can apply to when it actually comes to the application. And you can weigh your choices on what your first choice is, what your second choice is in regards to your career and your future goals. Now it's time to look for your first choice faculty and program. So your first choice, that whole section will ask for your faculty and then your program. So you're gonna kind of look through all the faculties in SFU. Hopefully you've already done your research, and you're gonna pick the faculty that you're in. And note, if you are looking to go into BD business school, that can only be your first option, because there is a second choice option, but you can't choose BD because then it won't count. So BD can only be a first choice option if you're applying to the BD School of Business at SFU. So say that you want to do a degree in geography at the Faculty of Environment. Next, it's going to ask you a series of questions to basically identify whether you have completed the degree specific requirements, which remember I talked about in the last SFU video. And the 2 questions that it's going to ask first are the English requirement and the analytical skills, which of course you can check out in my last video. There's 11 different ways that you can complete the English language requirement, and there's about 4 or 5 different ways that you can complete the analytical skills requirements. Now it's time to choose your second choice. So for your second choice, you wanna make sure, or it's actually more recommended, that you choose a faculty that's different from your first choice. So even though obviously you're not gonna choose the same program, you're not gonna choose geography be as your second choice because that was your first choice, you want to make sure that your second choice is also not in the faculty of environment. Then you're gonna get a higher chance of getting into SFU if it's a different faculty, because chances are if you didn't get into your first choice, it's probably because you didn't meet the requirements that environment needed. And remember, you can't use BD School of Business as your second choice either. If you do that, it's not going to work. You won't actually apply to it, and if your first choice gets rejected, your second choice will automatically be rejected because it's just not eligible. So that was the most important and bulk part of the application. Next is the additional information. So the additional information is mostly optional, but it is good for the committee to have more of an idea of who you are, because it'll kind of help with diversifying their pool of students. So it asks you if you identify with being Aboriginal. It also asks your gender, and you can specify whether you're male, female, or you don't want to specify at all. It also asks you if you have previously been an SFU student or previously been employed at SFU. And finally, you're going to review and submit, and in that page you can basically review all the information that you just gave in your application, and you can edit it right there if you need to edit it. But if everything is fine, then you are ready to submit and you are ready to apply to SFU. Now that you have clicked apply, you're ready to pay the application fee, which is about $78 at the time of making this video. But of course, fees change all the time, so that might not be an accurate number when you apply, but $78 is the application fee. After that, you have the option to pay with a credit card, and you also have an option to waive the fee, which if you have a document for that, you can just select that, and then SFU will most likely ask you for that document. Next, you're going to agree to the terms of SFU. You're just going to click that agree button, and then you are going to click submit, and that means you have submitted your application to SFU. On the next page, you're going to put in your payment details, and after you have put in your credit card details for SFU, you want to make sure for documentation purposes you have the transaction receipt, the email confirmation, and you also want to print out these documents just to have them with you physically in case you lose any of the online documents. So now that you've submitted your application as well as the fee, it's time for SFU's admission committee to make a decision. So you really just have to play the waiting game. So if you are admissible by SFU standards, you're going to be admitted right away. But of course, most university applicants aren't admitted right away. SFU usually needs some more documents, or if they have a few questions. And so usually you'll send that to SFU and they'll take a second look. So in terms of tuition, SFU says that if you are dorming with them, if you are buying the meal plan, housing, and you're buying the textbooks from assumably their bookstore, then one academic year at SFU will cost $20,000. And the tuition and fees themselves will cost about $6,700. But of course, if you are looking to save money and you are traveling to SFU from another province or even within BC, but it is a little bit of a drive, there are various ways that you can save money. You can buy textbooks secondhand on Facebook groups or online. You can also opt out of certain fees and stuff like that. And of course, this also changes every single year, just like the fees do. So you want to make sure that you're updated on the various fees that SFU is charging with your tuition. And if you're still not sure, if you're like, okay, but I'm not staying on campus at the dorm, I'm not paying for the meal, I'm probably going to be buying secondhand, they actually have a budget estimator tool online where you can easily just check out the budget. You can input all of the different criteria of what kind of student you are, where you're staying, your expenses, and it'll kind of equal out the cost for you. And that way you'll kind of have a ballpark of how much you need to pay to get into SFU or study at SFU. And of course, if you do want support with getting into SFU, you can join GrantMe's. We really believe in graduating debt-free and getting into your top choice university. And if you want to get started on that, you can actually just take our scholarship eligibility quiz. guys. It's free and it only takes a few minutes. So if you do that, you can book a call with one of our educators and they'll basically guide you through your plan based on your experience, based on your education. And also stay tuned for the rest of the SFU series this week. It's going to be super exciting, and also stay tuned for the rest of the Ultimate University Guide. I'm super excited to continue this series. That's it for today, and I'll see you guys next time.